Hello students, this is Manoj Janged and today we are going to start our first chapter, and that is, as you all can see, that is chapter number 1, Introduction to Economics. So let us talk about this chapter first of all. So before starting this, I think you should know first of all the basic things about this chapter, and let's start this. So first of all, if I talk about you people should also know that what is the definition of economics. So here we have given the definition of economics. See, economics is science of human behavior in which we allocate the limited resources in such a manner that the consumer can get maximum satisfaction. So basically, three things are there. The first one is consumer, and he should get maximum satisfaction. A producer is there, and he should get maximum satisfaction. Here we are marking the consumer and maximum satisfaction. The producer works for maximum profits, and the society can get maximum social welfare. So this is the definition of economics, in which the entire microeconomics is included somewhere. Then after, if I talk about the various definitions which were given by different economists. So if I talk about then the various definitions which were given by various economists are given here. And if I talk about that, who's the father of economics? So that's the thing where which you all need to know, is that father of economics. So if I talk about father of economics, then basically Adam Smith is known as the father of economics. So let us start. So first of all, the definition which was given by Professor Adam Smith is given to us, and it is also mentioned here that he is also known as the father of economics. Then the definition which was given by Professor Adam Smith was that economics is a science which is related to wealth. Basically, he had given the definition of science which is related to wealth. So here we can say that economics is a science which is related to wealth. And after that, the second definition which is given by Professor Alfred Marshall. So if I talk about Professor Alfred Marshall's definition, the definitions are given in a very concise manner actually. They are not given as it is actually here. So if I talk about Adam Smith, he told us that it is the somewhere we talk about, then it is related to wealth. And the second definition after that given by Professor Alfred Marshall. So if I talk about Alfred Marshall, then he had given the definition of welfare of people, basically welfare of the people, or we can say that mankind or well-being. So we can also say that it is the definition of well-being. Then the third definition was given by Professor Lionel Robbins, and Lionel Robbins explained that economics is somewhere related to these scarce resources and their alternative uses or unlimited wants, basically. So first definition which was given by Adam Smith told us that it is a definition which is related to wealth. Then Alfred Marshall said that it is the science of welfare of people, or basically mankind or well-being, basically. It is well-being or mankind. So somewhere which is like good for the society. Then the third definition after that was given by Professor Paul Anthony Samuelson. So if I talk about the definition given by Professor Paul Anthony Samuelson, then he focused on basically he gave the definition of mix up of all these definitions which are given by different economists, basically. So economics is a science which is related to wealth in which we study about mankind and how the unlimited needs can be fulfilled by limited resources. So that was given by Professor Paul Anthony Samuelson, and wealth, basically. Okay, so we have completed the definition of economics over here, and then we have done definition which is given by Professor Adam Smith. And after that, there were some problems in his definition, and the second definition was given by Professor Alfred Marshall, then Lionel Robbins, and Paul Anthony Samuelson. So it is just a brief of the definitions which are given by different economists, basically. And after that, if I talk about, then the next topic is somewhere the definitions basically which are related here to economics, like before starting this thing, you should know that what is economy. So what is economy? Basically, if I say that economy is a system, which you people will be able to notice here, that economy is a system. It is a system, basically. System which provides the means to work and earn livelihood. So livelihood to the people. So if I talk about economy, then economy is a system which provides the means to work and earn a livelihood to the people. So after that, if I talk about, then the next one is, what do you mean by scarcity? So if I talk about scarcity, then scarcity refers to a situation in which demand of a commodity is more than its supply. Demand of a commodity is more than its supply. So as it is shown here that scarcity, you can say that scarcity is somewhere like demand, in which is demand of a commodity is more than its supply. It is mentioned here, demand more than supply. Okay. Then the next question is that what is economizing use of resources? So if I talk about it, is a CBSE question basically. So what do you mean by economizing use of resources? So basically, if I talk about optimum utilization of resources. So if I talk about economizing use of resources or optimum utilization, both means the same. So economizing use of resources refers to making the optimum use, the best use basically, of available resources to satisfy the unlimited wants out of limited resources. So we all know that we have limited resources, and out of the limited resources, how we can fulfill the maximum needs of the people by making the optimum use of available resources. That is what we call economizing use of resources. After that, if I talk about, then why does the problem of scarcity arise? Whenever you will see such kind of stars, it means that they are most important, and somewhere the possibility of such questions to come in your examination is more. So please focus on such kind of stars. Wherever you will see such kind of things, it means they are very, very important. Okay. So why does the problem of scarcity arise? So basically, if I talk about the problem of scarcity, we all know that our resources are limited. You can understand resources in terms of, let's say, your father's income. So your father's income is limited, and whatever uses you are doing with the help of income, like shopping, clothing, first of all the basic needs, food, shelter and clothes. Then after, the other things like paying the utility bills and all the other things you can include. So these are the alternative uses of the resources. So why does the problem of scarcity arise? First, resources are limited, and second, alternative uses of resources. Like, it means different uses of resources. So if I talk about like, let's say, wood, then wood can be used in various things, like a person can make dexes with the help of wood. A person can make doors, windows, whiteboard to write, table. So there are so many things, but if, let's say, wood is limited, so we need to find out that where we need the wood at its most level. So these are the alternative uses. Then unlimited wants, because our wants are unlimited, resources are limited, and alternative uses. So that is why the problem of scarcity arises. Okay, so after that, as we were discussing the limited resources and all these things, then basically you people can understand this topic in such a manner that as we have taken, like, income is there, income is equals to resource, fine, and resources can be like trees, land, or anything. So we have taken income as a resource, and how we can put income into different uses. So we can purchase food, shelter, clothing, education, premium of insurance premium, or some medical premium, you can say, investment, entertainment, savings. So this is how we can spend the income. Income can be spent for medical expenses, for meeting medical expenses, rent and utility bills, etc. So income, this is how the income is having different uses. So that is how it is having different uses here. So we can write it like this, that these are the different uses of resource, and here we have taken the resource as income. So after that if I talk about, then the next question is, which problem give birth to scarcity? So basically you can say that why does the problem of scarcity arise? So that would be also the same question. So basically availability of limited resources, because resources are limited, so our resources are limited, and that is why the problem of scarcity arise. Okay, let us come to the next question, that is, which problem gives birth to the problem of choice? And that is very somewhere you need to pay attention here. Which problem gives birth to the problem of choice? So availability of limited resources, again the resources are limited, and that is why that is giving birth to the problem of choice. Okay, then next question, and you people should also focus here, and this is very important, as I have written important here as well. What do you mean by economic problem? So what is economic problem? Basically economic problem is a problem which is related to choice of limited resource, choice of basically the use of the available resources. So it is the problem of choice involving satisfaction of unlimited wants out of limited resources having alternative uses. So we need to make choice that out of the available resources, how we can use the available resources, and which is the best use for it. So the next is, what are the reasons for economic problem? So why does economic problem arise? Basically you can also say this thing, and this can be a 3-marker question as well, and we can say here, why does the economic problem arise? So why does the economic problem arise? Because of scarcity of resources, because the resources are limited in relation to unlimited human wants, because human wants are unlimited and resources are limited, and they have alternative uses. The resources, scarce resources, are having alternative uses. So that is why economic problem arise, and these are the reasons behind it. You can explain it. You can take the example of various resources, and then you can explain it. So that is not a problem. Let us come to the next point. The next topic is what is the difference between positive economics and normative economics. So in my language, if I talk about positive or normative, then P here it is P for pade rehne do. So whatever economic problem you are having, like if population is increasing, then pade rehne do. So P stands for pade rehne do. So P tells us that what the actual problem is, what is, if 15,000 people are dying because of the improper construction of roads and road accidents. So that is a statement which is informing us, which is telling us that what is the situation. Though what is, it is basically related to what is. It tells us what is. On the contrary, if I talk about normative economics, then in normative economics it happens that it says that nahi, aise nahi, N for nahi, aise nahi. So it is somewhere related to bringing some changes. So N stands for nahi, aise nahi. So we are talking about to change the situation over here, and let us explain this. So if I talk about positive economics, then positive economics deals with what are the economic problems and how they actually solved, not how they should be solved, only actually solved. Okay, then definition of normative economics, then normative economics deals with what ought to be, or how the economic problems should be solved, how the economic problems should be solved. So basically it gives us a suggestion that this is a problem and you need to find out the answer of it, and the answer is this. So normative economics tells us the solution of that particular problem. So it says what ought to be. It says pade rehne do, P for pade rehne though, so it's not suggestive in nature, but normative economics says nahi, aise nahi. And what else it tells us? Then it is what is, and it says what ought to be. What ought to be. Okay, what ought to be. Okay, after then, for example, like India is an overpopulated country, so it is just a statement. Pade rehne do, whatever is going on. Okay, we don't need to do anything with that. Next is, for example, if we talk about normative economics, then India should not be an overpopulated country. The price of essential goods and services is increasing, so it is just telling us a problem, so it is positive economics. Pade rehne do. Whereas if I talk about normative economics, then prices of essential goods and services should be controlled, so that is normative economics because it is suggestive in nature. After that, if I talk about, then positive economics remains strictly neutral with the respect of unlimited ends, whereas normative economics discusses what are desirable things and should be realized, and what are undesirable and should be avoided. So what should we do, what is desirable, and what should we not do, what is undesirable. It avoids economic value judgment. It gives decision regarding value judgment. Fine. So it avoids economic value judgment, like what is going on in economy, we don't need to do anything. So if India is overpopulated country, let it be. Pade rehne do. But it is suggestive in nature. If I talk, like, it gives decision regarding value judgment, what should be. So these are the only three examples. You can find some more examples in your book. Then before starting it, I think you people should know that if I talk about economics, then there are two branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. It is just for the information that Ragnar Frisch was the economist who divided them into two parts. So the first one is microeconomics, another one is macroeconomics. I would like to write it like this: MA, A would be capital and it stands for aggregate, as you can see here, whereas I would also be capital and I stands for individual. So basically microeconomics related to individual units, and aggregate macroeconomics is related to aggregate units basically. So what is our next point? So that is, somewhere I have tried to explain the concept of microeconomics and macroeconomics with the help of these diagrams. Let's say this is the concept basically which was explained by Professor Bowley, and he told us that if we are talking about a forest, then it is somewhere related to macroeconomics, because we are studying all the things, so it is macroeconomics. And if I talk about that, if we are taking one tree as we have taken here, so if we have taken one tree over here, then the study of tree would be microeconomics. I hope you people are getting economics, microeconomics. Fine. So entire forest is the study of macroeconomics theory, and one tree is a subject matter of microeconomics. It is not macro, it is microeconomics. Okay. Then aggregate demand, it is the variable of macroeconomics, and there's a large degree of aggregation. So let us understand the aggregation basically, because this is very important. If we talk about microeconomics, then it doesn't mean that it is only related to individual units. It doesn't mean that, because somewhere it happens that we are talking about cotton industry, jute industry, auto industry, pen industry, then overall these are this is a subject matter of macroeconomics. And if I talk about a tree, then let us talk about, we are talking about pen industry. So if we are talking about pen industry, then pen industry is somewhere giving us the product of cello pens, link pens, Flair pens, Parker, Reynolds, and all other very famous brands. So if I talk about all these things, then there is a aggregation, but the aggregation is of limited degree. So here you will find out aggregation of, this is microeconomics. Under microeconomics, there is a limited degree of aggregation, you should say. So this is limited degree of aggregation. And if I talk about macroeconomics, then there's a large degree of aggregation. As you people can see, large degree of aggregation. Okay, so as we are including all these industries, and that is why there's a large degree of aggregation, whereas there is also a small degree of aggregation. Let us talk about one. Let us take one more example. Tata Industries. Tata Industries. So if you are taking Tata Industries, then Tata Chroma, Tata Tea, Tata Iron and Steel Corporation, Titan Eye Care, Titan Watches, Tata Salt, Tata Motors. So if I talk about this tree, then this tree is somewhere talking about Tata Industries, and Tata Industries is a subject matter of microeconomics. Why? Because it is a single company, and that is why we are saying that there is a limited degree of aggregation in microeconomics. Okay, now you people have got the entire idea of microeconomics and macroeconomics. So we are talking about here, we are differentiating between microeconomics and macroeconomics. It is also a very important topic, and you can mark it important, or you can say it is PPP, please prepare properly. So in upcoming videos you will see that wherever I have put PPP means please prepare properly. So these are the most important questions, so whenever I need to put them most important, I mark them PPP. Okay, so microeconomics, macroeconomics. Let us talk about the definition of microeconomics. So microeconomics is that branch of economics that deals with economic problems and economic issues related to individual units. It means somewhere it is related to individual units. Now the best part is, in this definition you will have to write the same thing here, that macroeconomics is that branch of economics that deals with economic problems and economic issues related to an economy, or considering the entire economy as a whole. So basically I have just taken from here to here, almost all the things are same, you just need to change the last line. So macroeconomics is that branch of economics that deals with economic problems and economic issues, by considering the entire economy as a whole. Okay, now what are the tools? So the tools of microeconomics are individual demand, individual supply. So I stands for individual, A stands for aggregate. So aggregate demand and aggregate supply are the tools of macroeconomics. What is the other name? So it is also known as price theory. You will come across in the next section over here that why do we call it price theory? Because the price of factors of production and a commodity is determined under microeconomics. So that is why it is known as price theory. And here if I talk about macroeconomics, then macroeconomics is known as, this is the third point, it is also known as income and employment theory, because we determine the status of the level of income and employment under macroeconomics. In fourth point, it is assumed, like it is assumption, or its assumption is that macro variables are constant when we study microeconomics, like national income and national consumption. Whereas this is the 4th point, it assumes that micro variables are constant when we study macroeconomics, so such as price of individual products, price of particular commodity, etc. The 5th point is, its main aim is to determine the price of the commodities and factors of production. And factors of production are like land, which you have also studied in your 10th class, 11th class and 9th class as well. So land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. So these are the factors of production. So we decide their price here in microeconomics. Then if I talk about macroeconomics, then its main aim is determine income and employment level of the economy. This is the 5th point. Then 6th is, here macros, like it is a word which is taken from Latin language. So I stands for individual, that is we have already done, but this is not a point of distinction, but you can take it, you can write it if you don't have any other point. So here macros, A, in macros A stands for aggregation, or you can write it aggregate. It is also known as aggregate, so we can call it aggregate as well. So after that, so these are the topics like which are like difference and all. And if I talk about that, I have already placed here PPP, so it is please prepare properly topic, means you will have to pay attention on it. And every time in CBSE a 3 marker or 4 marker question is asked from any of these three problems. So every economy has to face central problems because the topic is central problem of an economy. Every person has to face it. We cannot escape from such kind of problems. So central problems will have to be faced by the economies, be it market economy, centrally planned economy, and mixed economy. So you can understand here that there are three types of economies in this world. First is market economy. Market economy is those economies in which all the decisions regarding production, consumption, and all economic activities are taken by the individuals basically, and there is no government intervention, and that is also known as in Latin language laissez-faire policy. It means there is no government intervention. So in market economy, you can produce whatever you want to, you can consume whatever you want to. So with the help of like the market will decide all these things, that whether you will stay in the market or you will leave the market. Then second is centrally planned economy. So centrally planned economy is that economy in which all the economic decisions are taken by central authority, that is the government basically. So government decides that what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce, like what you will consume, and how the resources will be put into various uses. And the third one, and the third economy is mixed economy. So if I talk about mixed economy, then Indian economy is the mixed economy, in which there is a mix up of private entrepreneurs and government enterprises. So if I talk about market economy, then USA and other countries are market economy. If I talk about centrally planned economy, then the best example is China, Republic of China. And the third one is mixed economy, and I should not there's no need to tell that as you all know that Indian economy is a mixed economy. Okay, so the central problems arise because of limited resources. So whenever we talk about central problem, these are the three central problems. So whenever we talk about these central problems, these problems arise because of limited resources and unlimited ends. Ends means wants. Okay, so we have limited resources and in relation to unlimited wants, that is what we have also discussed in the previous sections. So all the resources have their alternative uses, that is what we also know. Fine, and I have clarified that thing as well. So let us talk about central problems first of all, and don't forget it's a PPP concept. It means please prepare properly, beta. This concept is going to come in your examination and you need to focus on it basically. So the first problem is what to produce and in what quantity. Most of the students just write it what to produce, and that is the big problem. When you are explaining the first central problem, you need to explain that what to produce and in what quantity. So it is also very necessary. We will discuss that what we have what are the points, what we need to write under this head later on. Let us talk about the second problem, that is how to produce, somewhere related to production techniques basically, and for whom to produce, like the people for we need to produce actually. So for whom we are producing the goods and services, the production which we are doing in our economy. So let us discuss it. So the very first point is what to produce. So if I talk about what to produce, then what to produce is a problem of selection of goods basically. It is a problem of selection of goods. We can understand this thing in such a manner that if we talk about the first problem, that is the first problem is what to produce and in what quantity. So whenever we talk about this and in what quantity, so whenever we talk about this problem, basically this problem is related to selection of goods and services, like which types of selection of goods and services, like which types of goods and services we want to produce. As we know that resources are limited, that is what I have also told you. Resources are limited and they have their alternative uses. So basically if we want to, let's say an economy is producing two goods, a commodity X and commodity Y. So if we want to increase production of X, commodity X, we need to decrease the production of Y, or the production of Y will automatically decrease because we will have to put the resources from production of commodity commodity Y to commodity X and vice versa. So basically this is a problem of selection of goods and services which an economy wants to produce. And after that, if I talk about, then you can take the examples here. First of all, an economy can produce two types of goods. The first one is consumer goods and the other option which is available to us is producer goods. So an economy will have to decide that which types of commodity it needs to produce, because if you will produce more consumer goods, then if you will produce more consumer goods, then what will happen? It will increase the satisfaction of the society basically. So these goods will increase the satisfaction. So satisfaction will rise, satisfaction of the people. And if you will produce more producer goods, so if you'll produce more producer goods, then producer goods will increase the production capacity. Production capacity will rise. So that's the thing here. So you need to decide whether you want to produce consumer goods or producer goods. Okay, after that you can take one more example, because we are having a lot of examples for you. So we have one more example for you, and that is wartime goods, which are good for the society because it increases the availability of goods and services for the people. And peacetime goods, wartime goods. So wartime goods are not good for the society, because as you all know that they are used for they are used in wartime basically. And another one is peacetime goods. So it's very simple. It's very simple that if you want to produce more of consumer goods, you will have to decrease the producer goods. If you want to produce more of war goods, you will have to decrease the production of peacetime goods. Peacetime goods like milk, butter, or any other thing. Whereas wartime goods are guns and tanks, so they are basically wartime goods. So it's very simple, like if you want to increase the production of one commodity, you will have to decrease the production of another commodity. We cannot increase the production of both the goods simultaneously. This is that first problem. Okay, if I talk about the second problem, then the second problem is for how to produce. That is how to produce. So if I talk about how to produce, then how to produce is somewhere related to the selection of technique of production. So basically we are having technique of production, selection of technique of production. So if I talk selection of technique of production, so if I talk about how to produce, then we can produce goods and services in two ways. Like first of all, we are having technique of prediction. So if I talk about technique of production, then we are having two approaches. So first of all, labor intensive technique, and capital intensive technique. So basically capital intensive technique. See, actually the thing is that it depends that which technique you will use. If you are having abundance of labor in your country, just like India, so it's better for your economy to use more labor and less capital. But just like US, where there's abundance of capital, so it's better to use capital intensive technique because labor is costly. So a producer will always combine that combination of these, combination of these two factors, which leads to least cost or maximum profits. So that combination would be used by the producer or by the economy, which will produce the goods. So I have clearly explained this thing over here. I hope you have got it in a proper manner. And if you want any kind of explanation here, then the explanation is also written here. Like selection of goods and services is done here, example of consumer goods is given here, and producer good is also given here. Then wartime goods and peacetime goods, the example is also here. What is the guiding principle? What we want to achieve with the help of this problem actually, and how we tackle it? So it refers to the guiding principle. It always tries to allocate the resources in such a way that gives maximum aggregate satisfaction to the people. And you all need to pay attention towards this thing, that the proper name is what to produce and in what quantity. So that is what you will have to write every time, because this is the proper name of this central problem, which most of the students don't write. And these notes are also made by one of my students, so that is why he has also not written that particular thing. Okay, let's get back to how to produce. So how to produce is, as I have explained, a problem of selection of technique basically. And here, what is the guiding principle? Like combination of factors which give maximum output or minimum cost, that is least cost, which we have already done. So a producer will always try to get that combination. Okay, the last problem is left here, and that is the third central problem of an economy, that for whom to produce. So basically, for whom to produce is a problem of, it is a problem of unequal distribution of income. Unequal distribution of income, because all the people are not getting equal income, and that is why an economy has to decide that what kind of commodities it needs to produce, and so that the needs of all the people can be fulfilled. So, and this distribution of income depends upon depends upon like how the factors of production are contributing to the national income. I think you need to understand this thing. Somewhere different people are having different purchasing capacity. So here we are having 4 factors of production. Basically I'm writing here factors of production here, factors of production, and we are having various factors of production over here, and these are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Okay, so if I talk about land, then basically these are the factors of production, and these are the factor income or factor payments. Basically the person who receives the factor amount money, that is known as factor income, and the person who pays it, for him it is factor payment. So for land we get rent, for labor we get wages, and for capital we get interest. Okay, and for entrepreneurship you get profits. So I personally call it PRIW, profit, rent, interest, and wages. So it is very easy to say, it is very easy to take their names basically. So what all these factors of production are contributing to the national income, the national production. So according to that they get their remuneration or factor income. Let's say land is contributing 25%. So the rent which land will get, that would be the 25% of national income. Let's say labor is contributing 30%. So likewise all the factors of production will get the their consideration, their factor income. So on the all these things are not getting equal consideration, equal returns, and that is why we need to decide that what types of goods we need to produce so that the needs of all the people can be fulfilled. So it means that it is a problem which is related to distribution of income. As I have told you, distribution, which type of distribution? Unequal distribution of income among the factors of production. So that is done in for whom to produce. And for whom to produce, it is a problem which can be divided into 2 parts. The first is functional distribution. So functional distribution, functional starts for F. So functional distribution, so it refers to the distribution which is distribution of national product among various factors of production. That is what we have already done before 1 minute or 30 seconds. So factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So functional FF. Functional distribution is related to distribution of income among or into different factors of production. So F and F, you can correlate it with FF. Personal distribution, it means how national income of an economy is distributed among different group of people. People. FF, that is how you can correlate, like functional distribution of national income into various factors of production, and personal distribution refers to distribution of national income among various groups of people. So PP, that is how you can correlate. And what is the guiding principle here? The guiding principle is it ensures that urgent wants of the productive factors are fulfilled to maximize to the maximum possible extent. It means their needs can be fulfilled to the maximum level. Now these are the problems which we have done here. Then after, some specific topics are there before starting the prediction possibility curve or the topic of prediction possibility curve. So one specific thing is there, and that is what is opportunity cost? You need to pay attention here to understand this. So basically its definition is very easy, that the opportunity cost refers to the cost of next best alternative foregone. Next best alternative foregone. It's foregone is a combined word, foregone. So opportunity cost refers to the next best alternative foregone. Let us understand it with the help of an example. So if a student has two options to watch a match and take a class, or watch a take economics class, so match and economics class. So if he or she selects to watch match, then class will be, economics class will be his or her opportunity cost, because you have sacrificed that particular thing. You are having two options. First was match and another one was the class. So if you are selecting class, then your another, like the thing which you are sacrificing is the match, and if you are watching match, then your sacrifice opportunity cost will be economics class. So whatever you are sacrificing out of the best two options among the various options given to you, out of the best two options, whatever you are sacrificing to achieve the superior one, that would be your opportunity cost. And if he she selects a class, so if you are going for a class, if you are going to take the class and you are forgetting match, then match will be your opportunity cost. I hope you people have got this point. And somewhere let us make it very let us clarify it. Let's say Ram is a person and he is getting three options from various companies. The first company is A, another one is B and C. Let's say he is getting income of 20,000 after joining company A. He is getting 15,000 rupees after joining company B, and he can get 22,000 rupees when he'll join company C. Now you need to understand here that three options are given here. In this entire explanation, we have given only two options. So that was very easy to understand at that time. So if you will understand the problem of this opportunity cost, basically, so we can take the example of Ram, that Ram is basically having three options in front of him. So what are the two best options? This one and this one. These are the two best options. Now which one is the superior one? He will choose to join company C. So when he is joining company C, then here he is sacrificing job A. So job A would be his opportunity cost. So basically opportunity cost refers to the next best alternative foregone. So what he is sacrificing to get a job in company C, the job of company A of costing rupees 20,000. So 20,000 will be his opportunity cost. So this is the concept of opportunity cost, which is very important to understand. And after that, if I talk about then one more topic is there, and that is, what do you mean by marginal opportunity cost? Now this one is also important, that what do you mean by marginal opportunity cost? So if I talk about marginal opportunity cost, or it is also known as MRT, MOC or MRT. So what do you mean by MOC or MRT? MRT means marginal rate of transformation, to transform resources from one good to another good. The rate at which you are transforming them, we will discuss this. And MOC, both mean the same. So marginal opportunity cost refers to the rate at which one commodity is sacrificed. So let's say I can produce these two pens. These two pens are there with me. I can produce this one or this one. But let's say I would like to produce more of this pilot pen. So in that case, what will happen? I need to decrease my resources from this commodity, and I will put the resources for production of this pilot pen. So basically the rate at which I'm sacrificing this good to produce this good, that rate is known as MOC. So let us understand this. Marginal opportunity cost refers to the rate at which one commodity is sacrificed. So this one is sacrificed to produce this one. So sacrifice for an additional unit, additional unit, basically not addition, additional unit of other commodity. So when the sacrifice is done at an increasing rate, it is known as increasing marginal opportunity cost. Here we have just given what is marginal opportunity cost. So you can write the explanation, which is you can write the definition which is given here. But when it comes to what is increasing MOC, then when we sacrifice at an increasing rate, then it is known as marginal opportunity cost. We will come across this thing. I will explain all these things here in the concept of PPC, so don't worry. Then the next point is production possibility curve or transformation curve. So if I talk about production possibility curve or transformation curve, it is also known as, like, these are the two names which you are familiar of. Then it is also known as PPF, production possibility frontier. F stands for frontier, and PPB, B for boy. So PPB means production possibility boundary. So F frontier, B boundary. It is also known as TF transformation frontier or TB transformation boundary. These are the other names. You just need to have a look. You just need to once read these names which are given here, because sometimes it becomes very tricky to understand what the question is asking. So please go through it. Prediction possibility curve, transformation curve, prediction possibility frontier, prediction possibility boundary, transformation frontier, transformation boundary, and transformation curve. So what do you mean by prediction possibility curve? So if I talk about this curve, this is very, very, very important as per your CBSE examination, because either the question of prediction possibility curve will come or the question of central problems will come. Like 90% these questions will come in your examination, so you need to understand this. So what is prediction possibility curve? See, PPC is that curve. PPC means prediction possibility curve. So PPC is that curve which shows the various combinations of two goods which can be produced with the help of given resources, because the resources are given, and with the help of given technology, given resources and given technology, and using the resources, or you can say by using the resources at their optimum level. So it means let's say you can study one chapter in a particular day and you are studying it, so it means that you are using your optimum level, you are working at your optimum capacity. So let us talk about the assumption before understanding the concept. Please go through the definition. It's very important. I'm repeating it. PPC is that curve which shows various combinations of two goods which can be produced with the help of given resources and technology by using the resources at their optimum level. What are the assumptions? So you don't need to learn the assumptions separately. You can simply understand the definition and then you can write yourself. First of all, two goods are there. It means that we are assuming that an economy is producing two goods for the simplification of this concept. Done. Which can be produced with the help of given resources. So this is the first assumption. So the first assumption is, two goods. This is our first assumption. Then given resources. This is our second assumption. Fine. Then technology is also given. This is our third assumption. And we are using the resources at their optimum level. This is our fourth assumption, and these assumptions are given here. As you can see that with the help of given resources only two goods are produced. The amount of resources in the economy is fixed. So resources are fixed, it means given, and these resources can be transferred from one use to another use. That is what you can understand. The resources are fully and efficiently utilized. So here optimally you can say utilized. Now this is not given here. Resources are not equally efficient in the production of all the goods. Like you cannot be, or you can, but all the students are not equally efficient in two subjects. So basically what we need to do is, like, if let's say you are very good in economics, then somewhere you might be struggling in accounts, or you are struggling in history. So here we are assuming this is also again this is also assumption basically. So resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the goods or all the goods. All means two goods here. So when resources are transferred from one product to another, the productivity decreases. Fine. The level of technology is assumed to be constant, which is given here, and I hope now the assumptions are done. Okay, so let us understand the topic of prediction possibility curve. So here if I talk about this is somewhere like I would like to make some changes over here. See, this is the shape of prediction possibility curve as we have mentioned here. This is the underutilization. This point shows that let's say you can score 100 out of 100, but if you are scoring only 60%, then it simply means that you are underutilizing the resources, underutilizing your energy. So this is the example just for the sake of understanding. If you are getting the marks on this line, or if the economy is producing at this line, this curve, prediction possibility curve, then it means the economy is fully utilizing the resources. And one more point is there, that is K. K is not overutilizing of resources basically. It's not attainable basically. This is we want to achieve, but this shows unattainable point. This is unattainable point. Desirable but unattainable. This is attainable, but this is not desirable basically, because after using the resources, we would not like to underutilize them. So we want to get best out of the available resources. How we got this curve, we will go through it, but before that I think it's very important to come across the features of PPC. So the first feature is PPC slopes downwards. You can also write that PPC is left to right, from this point to this point, left to right, downward sloping curve. And basically you can see that it is you can make a cave here. So this is a cave. So cave is here, so it is concave to the origin. So it is concave to the origin. These are the two features which we have got here. Let me check that the table which is given here is available or not. Yes, the table is not available here, so that's not a problem. I can explain you that if I talk about PPC, then here you can see that on x-axis we are producing apples, and on y-axis we are producing oranges. So if I talk about this concept, then this concept can be understood in such a manner that let's say commodity like this is PPC, or we have drawn just for the sake of understanding here. Okay, this is your PPC, and x-axis, y-axis, these are various points A, B, C, D and E. These are the various points. You can understand it in such a manner that combinations are given here, combinations, and then good X is given. So X we have considered here as apples, and good Y we have considered as oranges. And here we can take MOC, marginal opportunity cost, which we have already done. So let's say combination A, B, C, D, E. A, B, C, D, E. These combinations are available to us. Let's say we were producing 10 units of let's say 10 units of oranges and 0 units of apples, or we can write 0 as well. If we want to produce 1 unit of X, then we need to sacrifice some units of oranges, and that is 1 unit, and it will become 9. Let's say the sacrifice is 1 unit. According to PPC, because if we put some resources from good X to good Y to good X, or from one product to another product, the productivity decreases. So if we want to produce 1 more unit of, as we were producing 1 more unit earlier, so if we want to produce 1 more unit like from 1 to 2, so we need to decrease the production. From earlier it will decrease by 1 unit, now it will decrease by 2 units, because the production the resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the commodities. So if you are transferring some resources from oranges to apple, so you need to sacrifice more, then 3, then 4. So if you want to produce 3rd unit, then the production will decrease by 3 units, and here it will be 4, and then it will be 0. And it just happens because resources are not equally efficient. Resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the goods. So that is why this rate is there. So we need to, if you want to find out MOC, then I would like to give you a trick of Manoj sir, that is toolkit, and that is LG, the refrigerator you are having at your home, that is LG. So LG, L stands for loss of a commodity. So here L stands for loss of a commodity, okay, commodity, and G stands for gain of another commodity, gain of another commodity. So you can write it like this, or you can also write it, because we are here, the MOC of X for Y is loss of a commodity. So we are sacrificing Y commodity here, so delta Y divided by delta X. So this delta y is presenting loss here, and this is the gain. So if you want to find out MOC here, so here we have no unit is given before that, so it will be dash or 0. Now the loss is 1 unit and the gain is 1 unit, because 0 to 1 is 1. So this is MOC, the value of MOC is 1. Some people also write it like 1:1, 1:1. So you can also write it in that manner. Now we have sacrificed from 9 to 7, 2 units. We have sacrificed 2 units, so loss is 2 according to the formula, and the gain is 1. So here it is 2. Some people also write it 2:1, which I have also explained. So here the loss is of 3 units, 3, and here the gain is 1 unit. From 2 units you were earlier producing, you are producing 1 more unit here, so again 1, gain is of 1 unit. The change we are taking here according to delta y divided by delta x, delta, this is a sign of delta. Delta shows change basically, so this sign represents change. So the change in y is 3 and change in x is 1, so here it will be 3, and then the change is 4, loss is of 4 units and gain is of again 1 unit, because 3 to 4 the change is 1, so this is 4. Some people also write it like this: 1:1, 1:, like 2:1, 3:1, and 4:1. That is also right, but the main thing which you need to observe is that MOC is increasing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is known as increasing MOC. I would also like to write it, because some students write it increase in MOC, but it is not increase in MOC, it is increasing MOC. So that is why your PPC is concave to the origin. So if you will actually make this diagram, it will take a shape of this type of curve. Now try to understand this. There are so many people and in so many books the diagram of PPC is given wrong. Fine. So basically you need to make the curve in such a manner that the PPC would be showing more production of one commodity and less production of the other commodity. Why? Because we know that resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the goods. So the production of, like, basically the very clear presentation of PPC would be like this, that as you can see here, that we are producing less of a commodity X and more of commodity Y. Why? Because we have considered this thing that resources are not equally efficient in the production of both the goods. This is our assumption, and on the basis of this assumption, PPC can be made in such a manner, and that is why we can say this shape is known as concave shape, concave. So that is why we say that the first feature is PPC is left to right downward sloping, and second feature is it is concave shaped. I hope that is very much clear to you, because these are the two questions which are mostly asked in CBSE, and you can answer it now very clearly. Okay, so features of PPC. PPC is left to right downwards sloping, or PPC slopes downward. Now what is the reason behind it? Basically PPC shows all the maximum possible combination of two goods. These are the maximum possible combination, like after utilizing the resources up to their optimum level, we can get this level of output, or an economy can get this level of output, so which can be produced with the help of available resources and technology. In such a case, more of one good can be produced only by taking resources away from the production of another good. That is what I told you, ki if you want to produce more of X, you need to decrease the production of Y. It means we cannot increase the production of both the goods simultaneously. So it simply means that if you want to produce more of X, it means less of Y, and if you want to produce more of Y, it means less of X, because resources are limited and you cannot increase the production of both the goods simultaneously. Cannot increase the production of both the goods simultaneously because resources are limited, and that is why it is left to right downward sloping. Okay, after that we are having the second feature, and that is PPC is concave to the origin. And I have also written here that because of increasing MOC. I hope you people are getting my point. Increasing MOC. PPC is concave to the origin because of increasing MRT. MRT and MOC both are the same thing. MRT refers to marginal rate of transformation, because it is, or PPC is also known as transformation curve, and marginal opportunity cost. So that is more and more units of one commodity are sacrificed. More and more units of one commodity are sacrificed to gain an additional unit of other commodity. That is what you can see in your like the page on which we have made the table actually. And I would like to show you again that this is the table. So here we are pointing out that the sacrifice is made in increasing terms. Initially you sacrifice 1 unit to get 1 unit, then 2 units to get again 1 unit, 3 units to get again 1 unit, and 4 units to get again 1 unit. So basically the point is this, that every time you are sacrificing more and more. So the more and more units of a commodity are sacrificed to gain additional unit of other commodity. Other commodity we have taken Y here because we are sacrificing Y and gaining X. MRT increases because it is assumed that no resources are equally efficient. That is what I have already explained you. In the production of all the goods, resources are transferred from one good to another good, and less efficient resources have to be employed to get more of the other good, and that is why this increases the cost and MRT, or basically marginal opportunity cost, and that is why MOC keeps on increasing. It's very simple. Now the next question is, what are the factors responsible for shift or rotation in PPC? So I would like to clear one thing to you, that shift is somewhere responsible when there is a change on both the axes, whereas rotation we call a situation in which there is a change on one axis only. So if I talk about rotation, then so first of all let us talk about shift. So shift is somewhere, it is known as, like, this is your shift. See, this was your PPC and it shifted to the right. Fine. So this will be your shift. But if I talk about rotation, then somewhere rotation is a situation in which there is a change on one axis only and the another axis remains constant. So this axis is constant, whereas this axis is changing. We were able to see some changes on this axis. So this is what we call rotation. So this is rotation and this is shift. Okay. Now we are going to discuss the points, like the factors responsible for change in PPC. So here the first point is change in resources. So when your resources will change, then let's see what kind of changes you will be able to see. And change in technology, because these are the two things we are assuming constant, and if we'll like if they'll change, then definitely they'll change the shape of PPC as well. So if I talk about the very first factor, then that is change in resources, and another one is change in technology. So if I talk about resources, then we can see the change on both, in case of both the committees. Otherwise we can show them separately as well. And the same thing will happen in technology, like if the technology of commodity X changes, then what will happen, and if the technology of commodity Y changes, then what will happen. So when resources of a commodity X changes, so when the resources will change, then what will happen? So change in resources impacts the PPC. If resources increases, then PPF shift or PPC will rotate to the left. Fine. So you can basically, I think, if you use shift, then that would be a right and appropriate word here. You should avoid rotate here. Fine. So shift rightwards. However, in case of decrease in resources, then PPC will rotates to the left. So because what we are going to show here is change in resources. So if I talk about change in resources, then you would be able to see some changes over here. So let us talk about change in resources, and we have taken the resource here, that is commodity X. So let us talk about, let me set it and then we can continue. Okay, so change in resources we are discussing over here. Then what we can do is here change in resources, and we are talking here change in resources of good X. So what will happen if the resources of good X will change? So this change can be divided into two parts. The first one can be increase and another one is decrease. So if the resources of X decreases, if the resources of X increases. So in case when resources of good X will increase, you can make the PPC like this, that this is your original PPC. I would like to show it. This is your PPC, original PPC. And what if resources of good X, you need to do the labeling actually. This is very necessary. So we have taken good X here and good Y here. So what will happen if good like resources of good X will increase? So that you will be able to see the rotation actually. So shift and rotation was written there. That was absolutely right. So you will be able to see the shift here. So your PPC from your PPC from AB to shift from A B dash. So from AB it will become AB dash. So this is what we call rotation. Actually it is rotation, but in your books it is written as shift as well. So this is the rotation on x-axis, or you can say rotation on rightward rotation basically. What will happen if the resources of commodity X will decrease? So this is your original PPC. This is your original PPC, which is concave to the origin, and this is AB basically. And if the resources of X decreases, then it will show a leftward rotation or shift. Here it is rightward rotation or shift, it is leftward rotation or shift, because now the production of commodity X will decrease from so here what will happen, sorry for the inconvenience. So here what will happen, like it will be from AB, it will shift right left, there will be a leftward shift from AB to AB dash. Then the same thing can happen simultaneously, but that's what we'll discuss after this point. So after that I would like to discuss with you like what will happen if the same thing happens, changes or basically even write change in resources of Y, resources of good Y. So what will happen if resources of good Y will change? So this change can also be in two parts. The first one is increase and another one is decrease. So resources of good Y will increase and resources of good Y will decrease. So what will happen in this case? We need to make our original PPCs first. So this is our PPC in both the situations. Here we have marked it with the help of red pen. We have made this with the help of red color. If the resources of Y increases, then in that case what will happen? There will be a rotation on y-axis. There will be, that is what we call, this is what we call upward rotation basically. Upward rotation, or you can call it shift as well, because when such kind of things happen you can call it rotation as well and shift. If I talk about decrease in resources of good X, then what will happen? So here this is the decrease in resources of good X. So you need to do the labeling. Please don't forget doing the labeling here. That is very important. In all the cases, good Y is taken here, good X is taken here, good X is here, Y is here, good Y is here, and good X is here. This is point A, B. You can name it separately as well. So from AB, in this case, from AB, it will changes from AB to AC. We have named it AC. Fine. So there will be a upward shift on y-axis. Here if I talk about, then we are able to see downward movement, or basically not movement actually, this is downward rotation, or you can call it downward shift. That is what you will be able to see. And the names which we are going to give is, let's say this is, earlier it was AD and right now it is AE. So we are just changing the name, so it doesn't matter. It is totally up to you what name you would like to give it to you. And right now we need to focus here, like if both the resources changes, So here in all these cases you are able to, this is case A, this is case B when change in resources. Fine, this is point 1 to case A, case B and case C. What if resources of, if both the resources changes, if both the resources for community X and Y changes, so what will happen? So it can also be divided into two parts. The first one can be increase, another one can be decrease here. So if I talk about increase, then let's say this is your PPC. This is the PPC and we are talking about increase here. So if they will increase, then what will happen? This is what we call shift. Why? Because the PPC is like changing its position on both the axes, but here in these cases it was just changing on one axis, not on the other one. So all these cases are actually rotation, but this case is shift basically. This is shift. Okay, if the resources of both the resources will decrease, so let's say the PPC, this is the PPC and the new PPC is made with the help of broken lines, so you can come across this thing. So this is what we call rightward shift, RIGHT, rightward shift, and this is leftward shift. So earlier it was AB and now it is CD. It was earlier EF, now GH. The names are totally up to you. Fine, this is the rightward shift and this is the leftward shift. The resources for both the communities, the resources of both the communities increased and the resources of both the communities decreased. That is how we can show all these things over here. Okay, let us talk about the resources of resources we have discussed, X and Y, and combinedly we have discussed them. So what will happen? You all know about it. And this is also like shown in this given diagram. Like this is the PPC, and if the resources will change and the resources will change simultaneously, then what will happen? That is what we all know. If resources for both the community, I'm just making the diagram once again here. So that is how the rightward shift it will show if both the resources of the commodities changes. Resources change basically. So that is what happened. Okay, after that, the second point, when resources of community Y changes, that is what I have explained to you. I think it is an increase in resources. So when there will be increase in resources increase in resources of for the production of commodity Y. So if they will increase, then this is the PPC, and if production of good Y will, we are explaining, then basically if resources will increase, then this is what happened. So there will be upward movement. That is what we have already discussed. And if they will decrease, then the movement will be here. So both the things are given here. The pencil is not working properly. So here, after that, when resources of both the commodities increases or decreases, that is what we have also explained. And we can make this with the help of a marker or a pen. So I hope you all people are getting this point. So we have already done this. So it is explained here. When resources of both the commodities increases, the PPC will shift rightwards. And in case this is rightward when increases, and if the resources of the commodity decreases for both the commodities, decreases, then there will be leftward. So let us make this with the help of pen. So this is how leftward shift. This is what you can make, and let us make it with the help of red pen, or as we have marked it with the help of black sketch pen. So you can show it like this. All these three curves are PPC. This is what we call rightward shift. You can correlate it, and this is leftward shift. So from AB to A2, B2, it is leftward shift. If I talk about AB2, A1, B1, then it will be rightward shift. Again, I'm explaining shift is a situation when there's a change on both the axes, not on single axis. So that is clearly explained. I hope you are able to understand the situation as well. After that, if I talk about, then this is a concept which is very important for you. Not you can, yes, obviously as per the CBSE examination, and to get a clear idea regarding this particular thing. So we are discussing the various shapes of PPC under various MOC, MOC marginal opportunity cost, or MRT basically. So if I talk about MOC, then here you can see that if in case of increasing MOC, the normal shape would be there, like left to right, downward sloping, and in all the cases it will be downward sloping. But the main thing is when this MOC will increase, it will be of concave shape. If the MOC will decrease, you need to pay attention on it. It will be convex shape, because one question can be asked in an examination that under what circumstances PPC can be convex. So you should answer that in case of decreasing MOC, this PPC can be, this is also PPC, but it is an exceptional case. This is also PPC, but it is also an exceptional case. So this kind of PPC you will be able to see when there is a decreasing MOC. For every additional unit, you need to sacrifice less and less, because in real sense you need to sacrifice more and more. I hope you remember that example: 1:1, 2:1, 3:1, and 4:1. Constant MOC and MRT. So left to right, and left to right sloping, downward sloping, straight line. In this case, it will be a straight line when MOC is constant. It means that if you will sacrifice 1 unit of X, you will get 1 unit of Y. If you want to get 1 more unit, again you will have to sacrifice 1 more unit. If you want to get 2 more units, you need to sacrifice 2 more units. The rate will remain constant. It's not necessary, it will always be related to 1:1, but for others as well. This is about the first chapter, and something like which is left here is the various policies which is recently included in CBSE examination. That is what we'll discuss in our next video. Thank you all of you for watching this. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video. Thank you so much.